money, but I'm doing it for your good. There's a new world out there. So we find that there's certain concepts as you work on your projects, and those were very interesting projects. First of all, we have a system now saying that when you're approaching, trying to get someone's attention, it's the hardest thing in the world now to get attention. There's a whole book called The Attention Economy, making the point that so many people are going, you open up your iPhone, you got so many messages, so many people want attention. How do you get attention? How do you get anyone to care, to pay attention to what you're doing? So we, in this book, we have a little scheme. We say, first step is, how can you create awareness? Just that someone knows your name. Second step is, can you create it along with an appeal that not only heard that brand name, but there's something appealing for me to go further with that. So much so that it leads to the third step. I'm going to ask questions so I understand what this really is. So notice awareness, appeal, and then someone asks questions, and then they may get enough to convince them that that's a good thing to buy. So so a purchase is made, and there will be repurchase if it's something that can be used again and again. You don't want to sell it only once, and then there's a whole stream consumers go through with the highest possibility. It's a form of customer engagement, but we call it advocacy. Not more than loyalty. The customer who keeps buying the same toothpaste is loyal, but may not be telling anyone it's a great toothpaste. So you all know about the net promotion score, which can be measured. One company I just talked to, your wonderful motorcycle company, the CEO told me, Ducata, that frankly, he's got the net promotion score for every person who has that motorcycle and every dealership that sells it. So that's your objective, to get some very excited people, fans. How do you build fans? How do you build a brand community? I told him the CEO of that company knows very much about the Harley-Davidson brand community. He's built his own, of course, for his company. There's nothing like that. If you can get people excited to meet each other. Look, I have a BMW. I'm not sure I care to meet you because you have a BMW. But if I have a Harley motorcycle back in I want to meet the other Harley guys because there are big meets, there are races, all that. Building a brand community is the ultimate success. It just coasts on itself, and you can sell them leather jackets, you can sell them Harley pens or Ducati pens, and so on and so forth. But what I'm getting at is that there's some new ideas. One of them has to do with content. When you do finally get some customers, don't harass them with selling messages. You will always have some selling messages, and in fact, that's all we used to have, selling messages. You can win a lot of customers by knowing enough about them to actually send articles that might interest them. Maybe you've done this. You're a sports person, and you saw a wonderful write-up about everyone likes Michael Jackson or someone else, and you just say, I thought you'd like to see this. So content management is becoming a big thing, and this is content without a selling message. It's with our compliments. So as you try to create fans, followers, people who care about you, is because you also create a lot more than just the product, much more than just the price. So that's happening. Now, I would say that in marketing, whatever, the old marketing isn't going to die. The old communication, you got to keep using certainly radio, TV, print, all kinds of broadcasts. Podcasts are getting big now too, because those are, they work, but you're going to use digital as well. You're going to use Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn and all of the others. It's a big mix, and what we have to say is that the number of communication media are exploding. There will be, maybe Facebook will be faced with some other group that comes along that does maybe some of that better. So what I'm saying is, and I'll close it in a minute, that you gotta blend digital and traditional communications, and they work with each other, because if you do a TV commercial, be sure at the end there's a little something, please go and see more of the long story by going to our page on Facebook or something. And vice versa, sometimes you go into digital and digital says, by the way, you can see some commercials that we had made and so on. So there was a piece of news that I had noticed that P&G, Procter & Gamble, one of our largest companies, is now at 35% digital. So a budget went from 100% maybe TV, 35% digital now. Then someone told me that he just read that P&G is going to cut back on digital, which I have to interpret as overreaching. They tried a lot. They got to 35% of their budget spent on these platforms, and they're not getting the expected impact. So they're going to back up a bit. Digital is not going to die. It's just that you're always learning what works and what doesn't work. I always said that if you are in a company that has no digital capability, hire a young person who knows digital and give them some play money and see what happens. And if a good thing happens, give them some more money. And okay, so this is a fascinating world all of you are in, and the very number of you here during this program suggests that Italy and Italian people are very excited about innovation and digitalization and marketing, and they go together. That's the mix. That's going to work for you.
Thank you. So many things, by the way. We talked about a new customer journey, or maybe the same customer journey, but we need to sort of...
That's an important concept.
Absolutely, absolutely. So moving from awareness, appeal, ask, act, and the advocacy part is super important today. And I guess all the startups have to focus on this in order to address specific pain points, in order to develop products and services in order to solve relevant problems. So it's not only about, let's say, technologically feasible solutions. It's not just about economically sustainable solutions, but it's also about relevant from the customer point of view. Otherwise, you don't have a market. I like the concept of marketing and innovation being not cost but investments, and it's very, very, very interesting. At the beginning of your speech, you focused on the importance of prototyping and fast prototyping. How important it is today to deliver something, a minimum viable product, something that people can actually experience, act some way, and get information from that first version, that first prototype. So it's sort of marketing shifting from making people want things to making things people want, to some extent. So the importance of prototyping is something that we've been discussing with the two guests that we have today on stage with me, and we are lucky enough to have two very important representatives of the, let's say, startup ecosystem, and specifically we are talking about two accelerators. So I would like to discuss with Massimiliano Gilardi and Aleardo Furlan about this concept of prototyping. So, Massimiliano, how important is, from your point of view, the fast prototyping, the fact that you can put the hands of your customers or prospective customers sort of prototyping version of your product so that you can get information from there and then innovate from there?
First of all, I would like to thank the panel here, especially Professor Kotler, for the insights we've been given. Insights filled very quickly, but very effective, on how this world, which is really getting faster and faster and very complicated, is actually moving on. And what I can say is only relates probably to my limited view on how innovation and startups are related in this country, and with examples coming from overseas, from other more innovative places like probably US, and maybe also UK, Anglo-Saxon countries. But as regards to your question, I would underline the important word fast, because actually my feeling is that things, and everybody on this panel actually can confirm this, things are getting faster and faster, and all the functions of any company have to adjust very fast to a very fast changing environment.
The word disruption should be added to the discussion, because so many companies must analyze how they are going to be disrupted by this very rapidly changing world, and be the first to disrupt themselves if there's a chance of that happening.
Yes, disruption is actually the key factor here. We've seen today startups, and we can comment on what we've seen, and what we try to do is actually to make startups and innovation, wherever it comes from, to talk to entrepreneurs, established companies. As you said, Italy is a country in which we see a lot of entrepreneurs, we see innovation, but maybe not the kind of innovation which the papers talk about, like Google, like Facebook, this kind of innovation, which is word of mouth everywhere. So probably one of the problem here I can see is that we have this huge amount of small and middle companies with a long story of success, but they've come to a juncture in the life of this country in which probably they need fresh blood, inside the company itself, in terms of more innovative ideas, and which this innovation has to be in the terms we've been talking about at this panel, which relates to digital innovation. They have to understand a world which is changing very fast in front of them, and in order to do that, they have to cooperate with external innovators, which can be startups, but not only, professionals in this field, which brings a different view, a different light, on the landscape. That's what I believe is crucial, especially considering that the skills required to do this move on, the new generation of innovation and innovators and companies, not necessarily are related to technical skills, speaking, in a very, very, very hard science or technical skill. Most of innovation has to relate, and we come to the main theme of this conference, which is marketing, has to relate in the way, as you underline very, very, very concisely and very effectively, the way the companies talk to their customers, and they get information from the customers, and they engage the customers. And I see that most good companies in this country not necessarily are very aware of how to approach or how to handle this process, which is actually a process. It cannot be a one-shot, experiment, and how to talk also with new generations of clients, like the millennials, like a whole generation of people who are not actually maybe they listen to radio, maybe they listen to web radio, maybe they probably don't watch TV anymore, and they are not reachable from this point. So coming to fast prototyping is crucial, But I would say, when you say faster prototyping, is a fast company prototyping, not fast prototyping of the product itself, in a way. So, in coming to the startup, and I want to conclude my speech very quickly, is that I've seen so many startups which they might have technical guys, very bright guys, but then they are too much focused on the technical side, and they become like a zombie startup, and they stay on the market for a long time without realizing they're actually wasting time and money and energy and effort in something they could actually be more successful of closing down or changing completely. And that has, as far as the startup world is concerned, is the main problem at the moment from my point of view.
Thank you. So we go back to the fail fast, learn quick, as they say. Talking about the importance of prototyping, when we see this disruption coming, all companies are fearing this blockbuster moment in which the new Netflix will come and again disrupt your industry. If you look at the problem from the company's point of view, you tend to see the so-called open innovation as something you should rely on in order to get some help from the outside world. But on the other hand, in some cases, innovation happens in universities or centers where they do great research and they discover sometimes incredible things, and they focus a lot on that specific innovation, but they probably have no idea about how to market that innovation, what the go-to-market strategy for that innovation. How can I protect my innovation so that I can add value to what I discovered, and the day I probably get some funding, they will actually buy not only my talent but also a physical assets. So talking about the importance to discover, protect, and help these little ideas in the beginning, and the importance of research, I would like Aliardo to talk to us about their job and what they do to, again, help this ecosystem grow.
As we said in the beginning, the job we have is to transform the knowledge to economic value. This transformation process is very complex and requires a number of steps, intermediate steps. Prototyping is a step which has to do with the transformation of what we have in our brains into something tangible, palpable, measurable. It's not only developing a technical prototype, as we said, but it's also a question of developing, let's say, a marketing prototype, something that generates acceptance on the part of the public, on the part of the consumers, the appeal Professor Kotler was talking about. So when we're talking about prototyping, it's technical and marketing, which has to do with innovation and marketing. It's a complex job, whereas we need engineers, we need marketing people, we need people being able to feel the flavor, what is the appeal that we are generating for the customers. And this is a process that may lead into that topic, because in a certain way, once we have developed this, let's say, global prototyping concept, which has to do with technical prototype and the marketing prototype, how to get into the market, is there acceptance? Then we should define how to turn this into an asset, into a company asset. Company asset is a trademark, is a design, is an utility model, is a patent, is a brand. Brand which includes everything. Brand includes the reputation, the trademark, the patent behind, the way I behave, the communication. So the brand community we're talking about, and we studied at Harvard, Harry Edmondson, when Japanese people visited the channels, the distributors of Harry Edmondson, they discovered they would then never be able to buy Harry Edmondson, because those people, they could not buy those people. The salesman, it was really great lesson. So yes, as you said, it is important that in this transformation process, we act as the facilitator of the value creation through engineers, marketing people, intellectual property people, and facilitating this transformation. And then told me a few days ago. We have to learn, we Italians, we have to learn to tell stories about ourselves. We have to learn how to tell the right stories about ourselves. This is rich country in terms of science, in terms of brains, in terms of capability to deal with the future and to transform the world instead of destroying it. So I really would like to thank Professor Carter for this and all of you for this, and I really hope there will be more chances to talk together in our challenging job of transforming value, intelligence into value, economic value for every economy.
We use a certain formulation called CCDV as a guideline for C is create, communicate, deliver value to a target customer at a profit. But CCDV, create, communicate, and deliver, and the essence is value. It's perceived value, not what you think is valuable, but you can get them to see it and want it and all that. Storytelling, I would add another dimension. Turn to the field of design as innovators, because the design profession is growing in many ways from just someone who may do a logo for you, you know, or a cover of a book. They say they're more important than marketing. We design something that will work and have. So there's a little competition between two fields now. Designers want to take over what we call marketing, and marketing wants to take them over as an aspect of marketing. Design. Sometimes the designer will say, the whole thing is wrong. You were implicitly doing things that you're used to, but there's a whole different way to design this. So that's a field you should be paying some attention to as well.
Thanks. Thanks for pointing out that innovation, and no matter the product or the service or the focus, has to be measurable. I guess one of the main differences, and that's my question for you, Professor Kotler, one of the main differences between the so-called old marketing and the new marketing, the digital marketing, is that it's way more measurable in terms of the way you can get data from every single campaign, and you know, without data, you're just another person without a vision. But if you can prove how many seconds people spend on a specific content, talking about the importance of content, and how many interactions and how many clicks on a specific advertising message, then it changes a lot from the past, when you had to run the campaign, wait for the results, and try to find ways, or if you wanted to invent ways, to isolate the importance of a single variable, say the commercial or the printed ad or whatever. So do you feel like, or would you agree that one of the main differences between the old marketing and the digital new marketing is data and making things more measurable? And is it something important?
Well, you know, the old marketing always pretended that they could give you the MROI, the marketing return on investment of a TV commercial. They were lying. If you can't, yes, if it's a great commercial, you know it, and only maybe 5% of all commercials are great. Everyone saw it, it's fantastic, it works, but most commercials are so average. Another car running fast, another car doing this. I mean, so in the digital age, using those platforms now, the tools, we are in a better position, and getting big data, we're in a much better position to tell the head of finance how much we made for the company. And remember, the finance guy's your enemy, because everyone wants money from the finance guy. And I think one thing we can say is digital age allows better measurement. why probably P&G is getting rid of half of its digital work. They found the ways to actually measure what was happening, and it was they overdid it and not to learn it, in other words. So the other thing is that if we look ahead in a science fiction way, we may see a revolution occurring that will change everything. And that is, we know so much now about every person. There may be a revolution of them, of people, us, saying, stop it. You shouldn't know that much about me. All right, you know my age, you know my education, but to know how I think, to think of me as a set of data that you can really manipulate. I haven't seen signs of that yet happening, but privacy becomes a concern when a company thinks that knows things about you that they shouldn't even know. So, but we should all look ahead at what's going to happen to, first of all, work itself. Will the economies of the world be able to create enough jobs? Because no one mentioned artificial intelligence yet. That maybe was mentioned before I got here. The goal of artificial intelligence is to get rid of you as a person doing that decision making. To really get the software to make the decision. The most interesting one example is what we call marketing automation. Every night while you're asleep, many messages will come onto your iPhone because they have the software to have read what you might be interested in, and that's a message at that time, 3 a.m. in the morning, maybe it comes to you. It's a different message than some other person in another place getting from the same company, but a very different message. So how will we create more jobs with digitalization and artificial intelligence and virtual reality? And if we destroy more jobs than we create, and let's not mention robots. Robots, there's a hotel, by the way, cleaning is done by robots, the reception is done by a robot, and the guest, the one at the reception desk is a robot. I haven't been there, but I've heard stories about that. So then if there is a decline in the number of available jobs for evaluation, obviously we're going to have to go to what is called the UBI, the Universal Basic Income. Somehow we get the money to, everyone gets $10,000 and do what you can with it.
Line, I would say sometimes, right? Yeah, if you don't realize what the product is, what the product do, they're getting your data and they're making money on that.
So the reason they really don't want to interrupt your life. If they know you're not going to buy it, sometimes they send you a message. The more they know about people, the more relevant they could be in their message. They definitely don't feel they're getting there.
So I would like to ask the last question. Well, actually, I would like to ask about pricing. How important it is and how much do you deal with that when it comes to the startups you accelerate and you help? I guess in the case of research and then when it comes to that sort of innovation is crucial, but I guess it's not just in that case.
Regarding products, really quite important concept and issue at the moment, as you mentioned, Professor Kotler, in terms of all the bunch of data which is actually collected from companies and not necessarily aware that actually they know everything about us and they can exploit us in a way. And probably traditional way of doing marketing was fairer. I mean, this way is more subtle, and
At least a better chance as a consumer deserves your privacy than you have now.
yes, and probably there's still sort of, I believe there should be some sort of intervention from the state in the nations to actually put regulations on how these things are done in order to preserve the privacy of people and preserve, the boundaries between, my life as a person and my when I walk into the street, I am the target of messages and offers from businesses and companies. That's becoming more, generally speaking, life is becoming complicated because we are actually submerged by messages, as you mentioned before, from my mobile, and we are handling things. It's really difficult to focus on things when you want something to be done. And I believe that there should be, for example, in Germany, talking about messages. I know there's a law, in German law, which actually prohibits, and there are very big fines companies for sending messages to employees after the end of the working hours. So if you want to send an email to your employees, you have to do it during working hours. Otherwise, the risk of being fined actually by the government. So this is an example on, and we know Germans do things very neat and clean, and they have very powerful industrial base. So I believe there should be something be done there in terms of regulations. That's my feeling.
Very fast.
Yeah.
What the customers pay is not just economic price. They pay additional prices. The time they have to spend, they don't just buy products, but they buy the information about the product, the data, regarding the security of the product. And they also pay the price because they provide data, personal data. So price is not just economic price, but also a number of other things. This is a very intriguing and crucial issue. We don't want to throw without freedom. So in Europe we are working on the right to development. We are working on the issue regarding the privacy, the right of everybody to themselves and integrity. This is a very important priority issue for the policy of the next future. I think that would be the topic for the next intervention, Professor Kotler.
Well, yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks, Professor Kotler. I will hand it over to Marco, who is there. I know you can't wait to know what's the winning business idea, so we'll hand it over to Marco to comment on this. Thanks again.
Sono italiano io, lascio la parola adesso alla giuria perché abbiamo dopo una... No, potete stare lì, dopo una lunga discussione in merito a quelli che sono stati i progetti che sono stati presentati questa mattina, c'è naturalmente un vincitore, ma prima di decretare il vincitore ci faccio piacere un po' raccontare il perché e il come è stata scelta, anzi come sono state valutate le varie idee progettuali, in modo tale anche che il professor Kotler possa comprendere quelli che sono stati i percorsi di scelta e darci anche una sua valutazione. Lascio la parola a Borchi.
Grazie. Intanto complimenti a tutte le 9 iniziative. È stato bellissimo sentire con quale energia veramente ogni imprenditore ha esposto la sua idea. Non nascondiamo che chiaramente tra 9 iniziative non sia semplice poi decretare una specifica attività che merita questo premio, che è molto importante perché sono fondi specifici che servono per acquisire competenza, per acquisire metodo, per acquisire capacità manageriali e quindi per far sì che un'idea poi diventi in qualche modo una impresa di successo. Per noi è stato importante sicuramente focalizzarsi su quello che era l'obiettivo di questa giornata, l'obiettivo della nostra corporate year, e quindi un'iniziativa che potesse in qualche modo sposare tutti quei principi di cui abbiamo parlato questa mattina. Io direi di passare diciamo, un po' per l'annuncio e per un po' così anche l'apertura della discussione, in merito anche alle menzioni che possiamo fare. Lascio la parola a Marco Bicocchi Picchi un po' così in qualità di saggio di questa giuria. Grazie Marco.
At least I'm not the oldest one. We have Professor Kotler, which is the legend of marketing, which is here with us. And I would be, first of all, curious to know what Professor Kotler thinks about the presentation, the quality, and which one was more exciting to see, or which opened his mind in terms of what could work or not work, and so on. Our jury is discussing the prize with attention to different aspects. One was, say, also how the prize would benefit the company that will receive it. So we have had different stages of growth and maturity of the project presenting. Therefore, there are some projects will be benefiting less from the program offered, and therefore also if they may deserve, because they are also more mature, we have decided that they were to be mentioned as actual projects, but not necessarily to receive the prize. Then we had other projects that we have discussed were, of course, in the challenge, but were a little bit less into also the intentions of the prize organizers in terms of where they impact the waste in the society, and related to energy, which was a little bit a higher focus, though they were very interesting projects. Another project also we looked at to be very ambitious, and we would love to say, as Shimon Peres, the former Prime Minister of Israel, saying, to dream bigger dreams, that encouraging our startuppers to dream big dreams. But we have also to be a little bit feet on the ground and look for something we think are more easily financed and executed in Italy and Europe. Having said that, so we got to a consensus about the winner, and I think I hand over to announce the winner, but maybe first we can have some comments for Professor Kotler about what he thinks about the different projects and which one would he have picked up as the winner, and then we see if we agree on the same company.
I'm a little handicapped because I came in and missed the first three, and the criteria is so important in this. You mentioned some of the criteria. Yes, of course, one of these presentations had to do with a very big, important idea that will make the life of more people in the world a better thing, and or in Italy at least make people better off, but would be copied by the rest of the world because it's new and novel. I would have put a lot of weight on that, and it could have to do with saving our energy. We need getting rid of the waste of food. Those are so important things. And then the criteria could be, well, which was the most technically exciting idea? Which was the most well thought out, without any missing points that missed by the people who had the idea? So I don't know how you all sat down. You have 6 criteria, and you gave grades on each. So it's a matrix, and then if the criteria have different weights, then you're taking a weighted average of criteria and come to a conclusion. But I just am more interested in the fact that Italian
entrepreneurs and innovators that are way ahead now, excited about this. Maybe it's because we're with the group of our own people here, but there are certain countries that you should emulate a little bit when it comes to wanting to be innovative. It would be the countries that are very much into digital work now and so on. Well, I met some people from Finland. Finland, which gave us a couple of interesting inventions over time. They're going to survive as a nation by getting everyone trained to think innovatively. And that's their mission, by the way, as a small country. Israel is fantastic in innovative thinking because they have so many patents on so many technical things. Maybe those people in Italy who want to get like that should spend a little time in Israel, see what's going on there. Go to Finland. Denmark, I think Denmark has some creative ideas too. Be part of that group where ideas are really hot and interesting and be inspired by that. Don't just stay here in Italy where things are happening and copy. By the way, I remember Ted Levy, very great marketer, saying it's good to be the innovator, but it's smart to be a fast copy. So maybe why should you invent it? You just saw it somewhere. Bring it here fast. So we're all waiting. I better stop so we can hear who won. It's a wonderful contest.
Allora, vince il contest Odiamo gli sprechi Wisestown.
Io condivido, no? Come si chiama questa canzone di
Eh?
Sound, mi sembra.
Sì, qualcuno forse danno pure noi.
No.